2, 1.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is High Point Mayor Pro Tem Michael Holmes calling to order our August 15th session of our Finance Committee. With me in chambers today are members of our City Management Group, along with Councilwoman Monica Peters and Councilman Tim Andrew. Our Chairman Britt Moore is absent today. Not too terrible of an agenda today. We've got a few items before us, and we'll get started with item 2024-323, consideration of a contract with Pepsi Bottling Ventures, and Lee Tillery, our Parks and Rec Director, will be presenting. Hey, Lee, how's it going, man?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the committee. Good to see y'all. Before you, in consideration, is a proposed 3-year contract with Pepsi Bottling Ventures, and then it's really 5 years with an additional 2 one-year options, renewal options. To give you guys, excuse me, a little history on this, the city has been working with Pepsi, about the last 10 years, 12 years, and it's really in a couple of capacities. So let me explain that. It's really twofold. Firstly is our vending opportunities. The city has 32 vending machines across various departments and sites throughout the city. At one point, we had some inventory management responsibilities with that, but about 5 years ago, we switched over where Pepsi just full service takes care of all of those vending machines. So we don't have a lot of responsibilities there. We do earn a small commission, and I'll talk about that just in a little bit. So that used to be a big part of it, but now it's a very small part of it is simply full service by Pepsi on all the vending machines across the department. We do have all of their machines in place. They don't need to switch them out. So renewing this contract and moving forward in that aspect is pretty simple. The second part is what we purchase from Pepsi on a year-round basis, 2 facilities, and then seasonal on 3 facilities within Parks and Recreation. Both of our pools at Washington Terrace and City Lake, and our concession stand at City Lake, as well the concession stand that serves the amusement area. We purchase Pepsi products, and then we purchase Pepsi products at both golf courses. So obviously, we sell those in a retail environment at both grill rooms, both Oak Hollow and Blair Park. So we purchase those throughout the course of the year. When you see that estimated expense at the bottom, and what we're asking you guys to endorse is what we think we'll spend over a 5-year period with those 5 locations. So again, that's just those 5 locations, nothing to do with the vending machines. Some of the benefits you guys will see, well, firstly, the contract lays out what our set price will be on those drinks for the next 5 years. So you can look at that and we can see what our increases will be. And then they offer a great deal of what I call sponsorship opportunities, and you can see them that are laid out. And I laid them out on the agenda as well. They'll pretty much give us $25,000 in cash over a 5-year period. We apply $5,000 each year to the Uncle Sam Jam as a sponsor. They give us cups and lids that we use at the golf course. They donate water that we use at various programs and events throughout the course of the year. We cannot resell those, but we're able to use them and hand them out and things of that nature. And so those have some in-kind value. We expect the commission off the vending machines to be north of $70,000 over a 5-year period. So again, that's nothing we have to do but reap those commissions, so that's very beneficial as well. In all those retail settings, we obviously resell those drinks and generate a little bit of revenue in each of those locations as well. So that's kind of where we are with Pepsi. The contract and what we're guessing, or not guessing, estimating would be about $295,000 over a 5-year period. And I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Thank you, Lee. Any questions from members of the Finance Committee?
Yeah, Councilman Andrew. So 295 over 5, 59K a year, but we don't own any of the machines. They're just running it.
We do not.
But we do get to keep profits from the sale of the beverages.
That is correct, yes, sir. And that's just in the vending machine.
In the vending machine.
Yeah. The other locations is bottled drinks, it's water, sell a lot of Gatorades at the golf courses. So it's a variety of drinks and they're in there. So we kind of pick and choose what we want to order. The price is set for the next 5 years. It's a syrup at both the concession stand at City Lake and at both of the pools, but we also sell bottled drinks there as well too. But we do recoup some of that expense, obviously, and some of the revenue we generate from our retail sales.
So there's not necessarily a profit in the drink sales?
Well, there is, but there's also a lot of expense in there too. I mean, I wish I could tell you how much profit it was at each location. We kind of group all of those food and beverage sales together when we start looking at our revenues throughout the course of the year.
That's fine. I don't need a break. I was just curious. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve item 2024-323.
I'll
Is there
second it.
A second by Councilman Andrew. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Lee. Stay with us here for a few seconds.
Yes, sir.
Item 2024-324, consideration of a sole source contract with North State Resurfacing. Lee's going to
Yes, sir.
tell us about that one, too.
Yeah, got you, no problem. So yeah, this is a sole source contract with a group called North State Resurfacing out of Zebulon, North Carolina. And it's for some outdoor court repair at Allen-J Recreation Center. So in this particular instance, they'll resurface our existing basketball court, and they'll also resurface our existing three tennis courts where we don't receive a lot of use, so we're going to actually convert those for pickleball courts. So I'm sure that, yeah. So y'all can tell people when you get all these questions about pickleball courts. So we got some more coming. But the need for the sole source is the cost. We've used North State to resurface some other outdoor courts. I listed them on here: Washington Terrace, Cedro, Goldston Park. We also just recently resurfaced the courts at Armstrong Park with this type of system. This system's a little bit different. We have a lot of outdoor courts that have a lot of age on them, and they can be either asphalt or concrete base. And a lot of times when you go back and try to resurface, even if you basically reconstruct them, you're going to have problems with cracking over a certain amount of time with how we do it, whether it be asphalt or concrete, more so with asphalt. And that cracking, for instance, at Oakview Recreation Center, when we did on that cracking, and we basically rebuilt some of that cracking in those courts came back within a 3-year time period. So it does have an issue on the playability and lifespan of these type courts. What we're finding here with this type system, and I think it's called the Polypave Court Shield System, is they specifically address those cracks. It's almost like post-tension concrete, where put a lot of tension and pressure on those cracks and kind of make it expand to the outside so we don't see them on the inside of the playing surface. I was not 100% sold on it until they did it, and those courts that we've done, we've seen no problems with them. So, and they basically build up on top of the existing subsurface, whereas in previous examples, as I explained, we'd have to go in and pay for the demolition of those areas, then rebuild it back up, and then still having some of those existing problems that you see on outdoor courts due to play, time, use, weather, things of that nature. So this system, they basically build it on top of those subsurfaces, and we've seen it to work really, really well.
Lee, when was the first round of courts paved with the new system? How long
This
has it-
one
how long-
was,
How long has it been?
These are the 4 courts, 2 courts at Washington Terrace Park, the outdoor courts near the community building, and that was about 4.5 years ago. Michael.
So you're seeing the durability
Yes,
be a
sir.
lot better with this system?
Very much so, very much so. And it just seems to be working in these applications, and these guys do good work. And, I would be hesitant if I hadn't seen it, but to be able to see it after all those years makes me feel a little bit more comfortable in the recommendation.
And I know we deal with a lot of these sole source contracts. For those who may be listening that don't understand what a sole source contract is, could you give us a little bit of insight into those?
Well, there's a number of factors that at least play in from a Parks and Recreation standpoint when we actually pull that together. If it's proprietary, if someone has certain parts, maybe we have a piece of equipment that only takes certain parts, or we have to purchase it from them, or a couple of major examples that we use within Parks and Recreation.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, you're good. But anyway, we're comfortable with this, and I'm happy to answer any questions. The project cost here is $66,480, and we're recommending approval of this contract.
I've got a couple questions. How many pickleball courts?
It'll be 4.
How many, 4?
4, yeah.
And about when do you think they'll be done?
If we can get them on the schedule, I've been telling people sometime this fall.
This
So
fall?
we're hoping
Okay.
before November,
All right,
December.
good. And just while we're on the topic of resurfacing, I was just out at Goldston Park today. When are they going to do that parking lot? I know they took down the tree so that could be done.
Yeah, that is true. We did take down that tree so it could be done. So we had 3 paving projects this year that were, 2 of them were done within the city's bigger paving contract, and that was at Cedro Park. And we just completed the one at University Park too, up where we have a Greenway trailhead. This one at Goldston Park is one that we're doing internally to save some costs, so we're working with Public Services to do that. I'll need to revisit that to see when it's on the schedule, but that's a good question. I can find out for you.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, my question was answered about the proprietary, so I'm good.
All right, hearing none, I will make a motion to approve item 2024-324. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Peters. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Lee, you got one more.
Yes, sir.
Item 2024-328, consideration of contract with Bloom Construction. Take it away.
Yes, sir. So with the Center for Active Adults, as we, just to remind you guys of where we were, we started, I guess it was February, March, where we brought on CPL we contracted with them to do the entire work of design for the center. That started in February, March, and our idea was that we would bring a contractor, or what we're calling a construction manager at risk approach. We would work that into the project before we move to the next phase of our design, which would be design development. Schematic design is our first phase, and we've completed that. So we sent out an RFQ to anyone interested in becoming the contractor for this particular project through our CMAR approach. We had 3 firms that sent their information in. We had an internal group rank those firms, and we had a top 2 groups. We brought them in for interviews. I had another internal team do the interviews and go through the ranking process. And Bloom Construction came out on top. So we'd like to recommend them as our CMAR. So where we'll go from here is we stopped schematic design, well, not stopped, just kind of delayed it. We'll hop right back into the design work, but our goal was to have them be involved in those pre-construction services and be part of the team as we move forward in design. Design development starts getting a little bit more detailed in what we're going to see inside the center. So to have them on board and their expertise, constructability, scheduling, budgeting, along with CPL, and then, of course, our internal team as well is very helpful. So we're glad we waited to this point to bring them on board. So what we'll do now is bring them on for their pre-construction involvement. We'll begin working on a contract with Bloom, manager's office, and our legal division as well. We'll pull together a contract, and then we'll bring a GMP to you guys a little bit later in the design phase, obviously, to get an idea of, have them on board to help us get an idea of what that's going to cost, and then bring that GMP to you guys as well before we move forward with that.
Lee, remind me, was Bloom the lowest bidder?
So in this one, we're basing it off of qualifications. Okay. So there's no pricing involved there. So they just come in, talk about some of their experience as a firm, experience as a CMAR, any experience with similar type projects. Obviously, that's the big sell. Bloom had more experience really with construction of senior centers. They just built one in Forsyth County. They had a great deal of experience with our design firm as well, which is advantageous for us since they've worked together, have a good feeling and understanding for one another. So we just based it off those qualifications, and that's where our recommendation comes from, kind of that analysis when they first sent in their information and in those interviews.
No, because I know a lot of times some of these projects, it's generally sometimes low bid wins, but sometimes there's really specific items that a firm needs to be able to accomplish that wins the bid. So
at this point, we're just committing ourselves to what their pre-construction service fee is. I guess worst case scenario, they gave us a price that we could never live with or couldn't do it with, and then we can look to some different options. But the thought process is they're on board. They'll be our contractor moving forward as long as we can agree to terms on what that will cost.
Fantastic. Any other questions for Lee on this item? All right, hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve item 2024-3228.
I'll second.
There's a second by Councilman Andrew. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next up, we have item 2024-325, consideration of an agreement for services with FMRT Group LLC, and Courtney Hempel, Police Finance Specialist, is here to present.
Good afternoon. I've come before you on behalf of Chief Cheeks. He is otherwise engaged this afternoon, but he has a recommendation for an agreement of services with the FMRT Group. We are asking that the vendor perform comprehensive psychological and medical evaluations because of their specialization with public safety employees. And we are seeking a one-year agreement in this current fiscal year with a 2-year, 1-year renewal term not to exceed $100,000 annually. We actually engaged them last year sort of as a test run to see what that would look like and what the services they could provide to us. That went extremely well. We spent roughly $55,000 on physicals last year. Those can vary each year based on the needs that we have, but they would help with our pre-hire efforts, those required physicals for our officers annually, as well as some mental health evaluations. We extended that to all employees last year for sworn and non-sworn, and that seemed to be a very successful effort. So we will continue that. And while we do encourage our staff to use the medical services through the city, we feel like just because of this specialization that they are worth engaging in based on what they have provided to us in this past year. So I'm happy to address any questions you have.
Any questions?
Yes, Councilman Andrew, that's what I was curious about, and I think you clarified it, the medical services the city provides versus what this entity would provide is a little different.
Correct, yes.
I had one other question when I was reading through the package. It said that it provided culturally competent team of licensed psychologists and advanced, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I don't know what culturally competent means in this aspect. Can you explain that, please?
Well, I think that is some language taken from their information. I can certainly get you some follow-up information about that. They may be speaking to the diversity of their staffing, but I can clarify that point for you.
Okay, thank you.
Courtney, thank you. And this is now part of every annual physical, it's required as part of the physical?
It is, yes, that is something that is required for our sworn staff.
Is that new? Is that a new requirement?
It is
for-
not new, and as I say, it fluctuates as far as the amount of folks that we send and the price of those services that we use. We have done that based on age range in the past, actually. So depending on the staffing in those age brackets, it can fluctuate each year. But yes, that through the North Carolina Justice Academy, we are required to perform those physicals annually for our sworn officers.
Excellent. And you said that they also support in your recruiting efforts, pre-hire
Correct.
assessments?
That's correct.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
so that's good. That's good. I like
Yes,
that.
yes, they're kind of an all-in-one for us, actually, so it's kind of nice, where in the past, we have used different vendors to provide those services.
Fantastic. Any other questions for Courtney? All right, hearing none, I will make a motion to approve item 2024-325.
I'll second.
There's a second by Councilman Andrew. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, Courtney, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, 2024-326, consideration of a contract for professional services with RS&H Architects and Engineers and Planners. And we've got Greg Venable, our Transportation Director, here to present.
Thank you, sir. Members of the committee. This is for the award of a contract to provide professional transportation engineering services to evaluate and optimize the 239 signals that we have in the City of High Point signal system. RS&H shall provide these engineering services for evaluating the current operation to develop optimized signal timing plans, implement and fine-tune the new plans, and evaluate final operational benefits associated with the work performed. The city signal system is about every 10 years, we take a look at our signal timing. Our last signal timing study obviously was in 2014. The city issued a request for qualifications on March 1st, 2024. 5 proposals were received and were scored by the transportation staff based on 4 criteria: project execution, staff qualifications, project experience, and performance relationships and partnerships. The highest scoring firm was RS&H, and RS&H will provide the services for a lump sum fee of $1,522,524. The budget impact for this is the funding is coming from the High Point Metropolitan Planning Organization Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Funds, CMAQ funding. Basically, those funds are available for any kind of type of project that shows an air quality benefit. It's 80% federal dollars and 20% local match. The 20% local match of $505 is included in the FY25 Transportation Department capital budget. Staff recommends approval of the contract to RS&H in the amount of $1,522,524 and authorizing appropriate city staff to execute all necessary documents. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just a note, I'm kind of glad to see this happen because there are times, I mean, I'm an early riser to the gym, and on the way back to the gym on 68 northbound, making a left to go west on Ski Club at about 5:50 in the morning or so, it hangs for a long time, especially right after market.
Right.
Assuming that everybody wants to go south on the 68, so I'm glad
Yes,
that
sir.
we're going to handle this.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, same. I've called Greg a few times about lights that I, tend to sit at over in Ward 6, but,
We do our best to keep you guys moving, so.
yeah, appreciate it. Any other questions for Greg? All right, hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve item 2024-326. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilwoman Peters. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. All right,
you.
next up, thank you, Rick. Next up, we have item 2024-327, consideration of funding for outside nonprofit organizations, High Point Regional Health Foundation. And just to note, this item will not be on consent agenda at our next meeting. Our mayor sits on the board of High Point Regional Health, and so this item will be placed in the general agenda for the recusal of the mayor. And Stephen Hallerick is here, our budget director, budget and performance director, I don't want to leave that out, to present.
Yes, thank you and good afternoon. This request is to modify the entity receiving American Rescue Plan or ARPA enabled funds from High Point Regional Health Foundation to High Point Regional Health, which also does business as High Point Medical Center. Just a little background, back in late March, this committee made recommendations for ARPA enabled funds to nonprofit organizations, and council approved on April the 1st, $3,073,400. Of those, $80,000 was allocated for the High Point Regional Health Foundation. In discussions with staff from High Point Regional Health and High Point Regional Health Foundation, the foundation doesn't officially receive government grants directly. They go through High Point Medical Center, and so they would like us to contract with the medical center to provide the funds, which will then be transferred. So it's pretty much just an accounting procedure. However, since this committee recommended and council approved it to High Point Regional Health Foundation, in discussions with the city's attorney's office, we felt it'd be appropriate to officially change the entity by official action prior to entering into a contract with High Point Medical Center. There's no change in the scope of work, there's no change in the dollar amount or additional impact, and we recommend approval.
Excellent. Any questions? All right. All right, hearing none, item 2024-327, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Andrew. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, our last item for today, item 2024, thank you, Stephen. Item 2024-329, consideration of a contract with Invisio Solutions. And we've got Meredith Martin, our Strategic Initiatives Manager, here to present.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the committee. This item is requesting approval for an agreement with Invisio Solutions. This cloud-based application will assist the city with collecting, tracking, and reporting data related to the strategic plan, performance metrics, as well as major strategic projects within the city. This would be a 5-year subscription agreement totaling around $183,000. The application will be implemented in approximately 6 months following the execution of the contract, and budget is available this fiscal year. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Well, I have one. So when you say data collection towards the strategic plan, what data points what data points fall into that?
So part of my position with the city is to build out a framework with the strategic plan, attach some performance metrics, some that we're already tracking, others that will help kind of guide us and show us what kind of progress we're making. So the reporting and tracking will help us build some internal and external dashboards that we can use to help us show what we're doing and how we're progressing towards our goals within the strategic plan.
Okay, well, that covers a lot. The strategic plan is wide and it's range and it's got a lot of depth to it, so I'm sure there's a lot of data. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm still fuzzy on that, just so for my very analytical type brain, I just need a few points that you're going to track with the software, specifics.
So items associated with the strategic plan related to housing, we could have various measures related to how we're progressing towards affordable housing, looking at pilot programs and kind of what community development is doing, and we're working on building out that framework right now. Right, currently that framework doesn't really exist. We have the strategic plan, we have departmental performance metrics, and it's really trying to connect those dots.
So we're not there yet.
Not quite yet, but we're working towards it, and this software will help us build that out so that we have a framework and a system that can help us report that and really illustrate what steps we're taking and what actions we're taking to achieve items within the strategic plan.
So what kind of timeline do we have before we believe that we can have some tangible output from this software dashboard tracking?
So there's a 6-month kind of timeline once the contract is executed for us to actually kind of take over and implement the software. Then it will be on city staff, myself, to help start building dashboards and reporting on this. But the framework should be built out within 6 months. And then as we do strategic planning updates, we'll kind of recalibrate that framework to the updated strategic plan.
Okay.
And Meredith, I'm sure that Invisio is going to be part of the implementation. They're going to walk you through the implementation.
Correct.
Training each of the users.
Correct.
Dang it, Tim, you got me another question I wanted to ask. And so when you talk about building out that framework, will this software also generate recommendations for us based on the data that is collected?
It will not. Staff will analyze the data and help build out some of that. It's really, as far as the performance metrics side, really help to provide trends and that sort of thing. As far as, historically, where have we been, where are we going?
Right.
Are there some key concepts that we need to start paying more attention to and make some decisions there to improve a service or continue on that same path that we're on?
Will you be able to port any historical data into this new software?
We should be able to.
Okay. All right, so it'll give you a long-range kind of historical build-out for the framework.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions?
No, not right
I'm
now.
about to play the Jeopardy thing, Tim.
I'll figure it out. I'm good for now.
Okay. All right, hearing none, I will make a motion to approve item 2024-329. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Peters. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Is there anything else to come before the finance agenda
I
today?
actually do, if it's appropriate with you.
Sure.
With that. And I should have asked it on number 6, but it didn't have anything to do with that specific request. But I did want to see if, for clarity, we can just discuss, since it's the Finance Committee, that there is no ARPA available anymore. If you can clarify that? And then also, I know that we've been in some discussion about really making sure that nonprofit allocations fit within a public purpose requirement. Is it appropriate if,
Please. Madam Attorney, would you, or
Yeah, so I'm happy to talk about the
Stephen?
public
Either
purpose,
one.
but as far as the funds that were enabled by ARPA, I believe all of those have been exhausted, is that correct?
There's about $1.9 million or so that has not been allocated for any specific project by council, out of the 22.7 or so that was totally allocated to us.
So, and I'll just make that clarification point that we're considering it ARPA-enabled in the sense of it's not direct ARPA dollars that are going to the outside organizations. So, they were, somebody else can explain
Yeah, let me
that.
elaborate a little bit on that. So when ARPA was initially transmitted to the city, there were certain deadlines that were hard deadlines from the federal government. There were also some parameters on how it could be used. Legislation was changed to allow those uses to be very, very broad. And so the city used the majority of the ARPA money for law enforcement operations. So that met the deadline there, and I'm probably getting most of it right. Stephen wants to clarify anything, but we are consistent with the ARPA deadlines by doing that. So it freed up money that is now being, what little bit is left,
Yes.
made available.
I would say the entire ARPA allocation we utilized for government services, specifically fire and police salaries. What that did was free up the equivalent of local dollars that would go toward that. So that became ARPA-enabled dollars. And so in the U.S. Treasury's eyes, we have met all of our ARPA commitments. We've met all our deadlines. We've spent down all of the funds. In terms of the ARPA-enabled, those are just kind of sitting there until council makes a final decision on that remaining set of dollars.
Right. So, Councilwoman Peters, if I think that I grasp your question, you're saying that the funds that we allocated for nonprofits, that we're done with those applications, correct? Is that what you're asking for?
Well, that for the ARPA stuff,
Sure.
yes.
Okay.
But, and also I guess for the public record, I just want people to understand, because I'm getting a lot of calls now for this other nonprofit allocations that we need to work on.
Sure.
And, it's so tricky because we all know how difficult it is, because every single project is important, and, but, we have public purpose requirements. And so I just, want people to really understand that. And
Councilwoman Peters, I'm happy to speak just kind of a high level about that for the sake of the committee. So as Stephen explained, there's kind of, different pots of money. So the process has has been completed for the funds that were ARPA-enabled city dollars that have been processed. And I think now what is open is the applications were submitted back in February, I believe, for the fiscal year nonprofit grants that the city gives every year. And so right now, that's what will be under review by city council to determine what to do for the new budget. We have $250,000. No, what's the amount?
Historically, council has allocated about a third of a penny.
Sorry, that's right,
For
yeah.
FY25, that's about $450,000.
450, yeah. Okay. And so that is what I believe Finance Committee will decide how to allocate based on the applications. And so then that comes into the bigger picture of that under North Carolina law, both the Constitution and general statutes, the city can only do and provide funds for things that serve a public purpose. And so just because an entity is organized as a nonprofit corporation doesn't necessarily mean that every single activity or dollar that they spend is for a public purpose. And so that's what, we're going to talk about, making sure that the fundamental step before any money is allocated is making sure that it does meet a public purpose to serve the community. A great example of that is a nonprofit requesting funds to, for example, do something to its back offices, right? It's space that the employees sit in, whether it be a service, an HVAC service, or an office space, or is it for a community-facing event or center? So is it where they greet the community and they have a shelter or something like that, or is it their back office? Certainly, it's kind of a spectrum of analysis. If it's something directly for the community, that would be serving a public purpose. If it's more of a back-end operation, that would feel like less of a public purpose. And so that's just, I think that we want to make sure that when it goes before all of council, that analysis has been done and that you all are thinking about that we cannot just give money out to any organization for any reason, that there's analysis that needs to be done to make sure it's legal, and then there is some analysis and scoring debate, depending on council's direction and their desire on how the money should be allocated.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Attorney. Any other questions or anything to come before the Finance Committee? All right, I'm sorry.
You're fine. If I may reapproach, I actually have an answer to your point of clarification, Councilman Andrews. The chief says that when the vendor FMRT is talking about culture, they are really referring to the law enforcement culture.
That's
their
what I thought. I didn't want to
specification.
assume, but thank you.
Yes, mhm.
Excellent. All right. If there's nothing else to come before the Finance Committee today, we are adjourned. If you